The modern age of cinema is a fascinating spectacle. Advances in technology and audience tastes have led Hollywood to an era of innovation unmatched in history. As wonders of this modern era stand two fundamental trends: the birth of the cinematic universe as the most profitable vehicle to tell stories that audiences fall in love with, and the corporatization of the silver screen. Don't get me wrong, the history of Hollywood is drenched in studio-mandated actions. This is nothing new. But the degree to which capitalism has sunk its bloodthirsty fangs into the neck of creativity in this industry has been unprecedented. Several factors have facilitated and rewarded centralized studio dominance over the products Tinseltown offers viewers. From the need of a central point of gravity to regulate cinematic universe, to the rise of the super producer, like Kevin Feige, to the acquisition strategy that has dominated the previous decade, leading to fewer and fewer players in the market. No studio has been as markedly changed by this era as the Mouse House itself. Disney has evolved in its previous decades from an animation powerhouse bringing classic fairy tales to life in wonderful detail to a multi-platform conglomerate of cutting-edge brands from Marvel to StarWars, and with a strong presence in every entertainment market in the face of the earth, from movies and streaming to parks and video games. Perhaps the most representative token of this time, a piece that perfectly encapsulates the trade-off between the old Disney and the new, is the Disney remakes of the traditional classics. Everyone from Cinderella to Beauty and the Beast and even Dumbo have gone through this process, resulting in CGI-enhanced live-action versions of Walt's classic animated films. Today, we will dissect Disney's overarching strategy behind their efforts to remake their entire collection. Is it just a cash grab based on nostalgia, or are we only hearing the first notes to a large orchestral piece? Today in Rebel Economics, we will ponder all of that to finally answer the question, what's the point of Disney's remakes? If you enjoy our content, drop a like and consider subscribing. We put out weekly content on everything from business to economics and finance. But now, back to the video. The first point I would like to discuss is the widely assumed notion that these remakes are bad. Obviously, art is subjective, so my opinions on this matter is of little importance. But you know what is not subjective? Box office total. And of the remakes developed by Disney since this new era began, almost all of them have generated tremendous box office returns. Especially successful have been The Lion King with a box office total of over $1.6 billion, Beauty and the Beast with $1.2 billion, and Aladdin with slightly over $1 billion. I know it's easy to hate these films. They seem uninspired, rarely surpassing the original movie in the minds of the audience, and proof to many of Hollywood's creative bankruptcy. But we are either lying to ourselves and going to these movies as a form of self-torture, or they are not that bad. And I must say that I have this opinion too. I am rarely excited about any of these releases. Pinocchio is now live in Disney Plus at no extra cost, and I am here rewatching Community for the millionth time instead of giving it a spin. But what is clear is that what it matters, beyond any critical commentary, is that these movies rock the box office. Some upcoming releases are Hercules, one of my favorite of the Disney Renaissance movies, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and even a rumored sequel to Aladdin. I will be game for all of this. I will gladly pay to watch a lesser, though longer version of the animated classics. Yet the question remains, is Disney going anywhere with these titles? Are they simply a way for the Mouse House to milk billions out of the box office, or are there any grand strategies? Here are a couple of my own arguments as to why I believe Disney has grander plans for the remakes. Firstly, look at Marvel and Star Wars. The greatest advances in the crafting of the multiverse narratives and cinematic universe of the last decade have happened inside of Disney. Marvel evolved from the ragtag group of Avengers to the cosmic-sized behemoth that the MCU later became under the comforting warmth of Mickey Mouse. Let's not forget that. The greatest example of a cinematic universe, arguably one of the only successful ones, has been homemade at the studio. So they know, maybe better than anyone, the wealth to be gotten from interconnection. A similar thing is happening with Star Wars, with even more shows and movies being developed to expand on the existing movies. And even if this is not a cinematic universe per se, in the same sense as Marvel, since due to the time disparity many of the characters cannot cross over, it still shows another of Disney brands pushing to weave an interconnected universe out from the singular points that are the shows and movies. Simply put, Disney has, time and time again, tested the waters of the cinematic universe and extended interconnected lore. They know the power of a connected narrative to bring butts into theaters. That's what I call the Ant-Man effect. Sorry to all of those Ant-Man fans out there, but even with the incredibly charismatic Paul Rudd under the suit, I cannot care for any of his movies. But since it is Marvel, and just might show something that affects the future characters that I do care about, I will go see them. This is something that Disney remakes are missing. I care about Hercules, but I would not go and spend money on, say, Alice in Wonderland or Pinocchio. Now, if you told me that these movies are building to something larger, well, then I might just watch them. I know that the idea sounds a bit weird. How could that even happen? Hercules and Snow White hanging out like the Avengers? Are you crazy? Well, let me explain. I am fully aware that, in contrast to the MCU where the comic characters were meant for a long time to be living in the same universe, the characters in these Disney movies were not. I mean, how are the human characters meant to communicate with Simba? Do they speak lion? Or does Simba speak English? It's weird, I'll be the first to admit it. But the truth is that these characters can coexist. And I know this because there already exists a beta version of this Disney cinematic universe. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 1999 episode of the Hercules animated series called Hercules and the Arabian Night, where Hercules meets none other than Aladdin. And it is glorious. In this episode, Hades is angry at his constant defeats at the hands of Hercules, and it seems that he can even keep the orders in his own domain, the underworld. A soul there keeps opposing the rules of that place, so Hades goes personally to confront it, and that soul is none other than Jafar, the ex-vizier turned sultan turned genie that Aladdin defeated in the sequel to the original film. Hades ends up bonding with Jafar through the fact that both of them were defeated by essentially teenagers and decide to make a bet, arguing that each villain will be able to defeat the other's hero. Hades gives Jafar a new chance at life and a new snake staff, and each villain goes on their own way. Obviously, Hercules manages to defeat Jafar and Aladdin outsmarts Hades no problem, and both become friends in the process and collaborate in a final battle. It's fantastic. I mean, the writing is obviously no House of the Dragon, but it's still fascinating to watch. So, what this episode proves is that these characters can, and have, crossed over successfully. So, how could this work? How could Disney use the templates of Hercules and the Arabian Night to develop a cinematic universe? Here are some ideas. First, Disney should start laying some seeds of the idea of an external universe to each of these characters' movies as soon as possible. The equivalent to S.H.I.E.L.D. showing up in Phase 1 of the MCU. Perhaps Hercules loses his sword at the end of the first movie, only to appear in the Aladdin sequel, or perhaps the evil witch in Snow White is reading a book written by Maleficent. Just some clues to let us know that the immortal words of Nick Fury after the first Iron Man movie are also true in this case. Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet. Second, we need a villain. Not a misunderstood good guy, but a villain. I think Jafar from the Aladdin remake is perfect, but the evil witch from Snow White might also work. As can Hades. In my opinion, it is important for the bad guy to have a certain level of cosmic awareness. Like, they would know about the universe beyond their own. Characters like Hades, as a god, would make sense, but others like Lady Tremaine from Cinderella, I don't know, not so much. These characters should be the Loki to the Disney's Avengers, the opposing force that brings them together. But we also need Thanos, the big bad guy, the one that is not here to play, but to end the game. I believe Disney has many villains that could do the job, but none like Maleficent. She has good credentials leading a team of Disney villains in the Kingdom Hearts series, she's not a bumbling dummy like 90% of Disney classic villains, and her dragon form would be a kick-ass final fight. Thirdly, coming together. Let's address the elephant in the room. What do we do with Dumbo? No, I'm kidding. I mean the big question of how to bring together such a diverse group of characters. How to have a scene with Hercules and Simba and Tarzan that is not as bizarre as all hell. Well, the truth is that this question is the most complicated one of them all. Perhaps we could take a page of the original Avengers movies, where each Avenger was reduced to one or two aspects of their personality and thereby simplified. Who is Tony Stark? A playboy genius. Who is Steve Rogers? A good boy with guts. Who is Thor? A Shakespearean warrior. Maybe we can do it in the same way. In the Hercules and the Arabian Night episode, they did something similar. They reduced Herc to a strong dummy that had to learn to think, and Aladdin to a smart guy who had to learn how to fight hard. We can do something similar. Each character should have one virtue and one defect. Snow White might be courageous but too trusting, and the Beast might be strong but a loner, and so on. Fourth, keep the roster small in the beginning. Remember that the weirder side of the MCU took a while to arrive? Before talking raccoons and humanoid trees, we had to become acquainted with strange but relatively tame concepts, like super soldiers and suits of armor. The same logic should apply here. Maybe the animal characters do not appear in the first one of these crossovers. Maybe it's a humans-only kind of movie. I know, I also want to see Hercules riding Simba to face Dragon Maleficent, but maybe it has to wait a while. Fifth, return to the status quo. Each character has to return to their own universe at the end of the story, ideally in a changed position that triggers the sequel to their ongoing standalone franchise. This is necessary so that Disney Universe can exist, but it never gets in the way of telling the beloved classic stories that audiences want. The key to do this is making sure that each Disney world is self-contained, and that the actions of the Disney crossovers happen in a sort of meta-world. And basically, that is how I believe the Disney live-action remakes should be brought together to build up a cinematic universe with probably the most popular characters of all time. Admittedly, it's a complicated task that will live or die depending on the execution of the first crossover. But if it were to be successful, I believe that it might be able to strip the MCU as the most popular piece of pop culture of the early 21st century. Thank you so much for watching another Rebel Economics video. I hope you enjoyed this topic as much as we did. And if you have any ideas on how to expand this universe, let us know, and maybe we can create a phase 2 of this Disney cinematic universe. Beyond that, please drop a like if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. In case you are hungry for more content, here are 2 other fun videos for you to watch right now. And I hope I'll see you in the next one.